I am so excited to share these ideas with you today. If you haven't made your holiday cards yet, or if you would like to gift a handmade card set to someone in the following days, but you don't have that much time to do so, stay with me and I'll show you my favorite way to mass produce cards quickly, easily, and using anything I have in my stash by using mixed media. Now, if you're intimidated by mixed media, I will break it down into small steps that you can follow along and will give you rich and unique results every time. I am no mixed media artist, so if you are, this video will also show you how to use it in different ways. This entire video is heavily inspired by Jennifer Maguire, but I did a lot of research and I'm sharing the main points with you, so I'll keep it objective and concise. We're going to start with 1 page of cardstock. I'm using very heavy weight. You can use anything you trust. I'm cutting it in half, and from this 1 page of cardstock, I'm gonna make those 8 cards. First thing you need to do is add color. I have here on the screen some methods and some supplies that you can use. I'm gonna show you 2 different ways that I did the ones I have. For the first one, I'm gonna use teal shades and blue shades. I'm choosing the 2 lightest shades of each color, and I'm just gonna use direct to paper. If you need to see the exact colors I'm using, please feel free to pause, and I am showing everything here on the screen for you. I'm just gonna swipe those ink pads straight onto the paper, and I want different colors in different areas, so I'm gonna spread them out and it's gonna look absolutely insane at the end, but trust the process. You know, this is just the quickest and easiest way. I do try to show you the easiest way to make a card first, and then I'll do a second way that it's not that complicated afterwards. As you can see, I'm just trying to cover my whole cardstock piece with color and give it a base. And it looks very dark now, but it's gonna lighten up later. Bear that in mind. I kind of wish I had used the 3 lightest colors first. I'm also using some mica stains and some other sprays to add a little bit of shine, sparkle, a little bit more color. And I'm using, for this one, this panel, I'm using it now, but I am going to add more later. Just bear in mind that the mica sprays, when you use stamps afterwards, the stamps will lift some of that mica, some of the shine, some of the shimmer. Then I felt like I needed some more and I added it up later. I did try to make less cards this time because usually when I use mixed media, I make way too many and I didn't want to end up with 50 different cards. But I'll show you at the end how to make each one of them look unique as well. And I'm also sharing a very crazy tip later, so keep on watching. I'm happy with how this one looks in terms of color and shine. And now I'm gonna move to the second phase, which is adding detail. Here are some ideas that you can use for all occasions. I'm showing you on the screen some background stamps, and none of them especially holiday related, like the one with the gifts. You can barely see it later. I will use it, but you won't see much because I covered it up a lot. And the other ones are very neutral patterns. I showed you in the beginning a list of things that you can use all year long. And then if you want to make them holiday related, just add something that would remind you of that. Now, for example, it's fall in the Northern Hemisphere, and you can use fall colors, fall leaves. And in the US, you're about to celebrate Thanksgiving, so maybe you want to give some thank you card sets as a gift to somebody or send them yourself. You could just customize them to attend any occasion that you need. These, I'm making the videos today about holiday cards because I need more of those, but you could use this idea, these techniques all year long. Here on the screen, I'm showing you a bunch of stamps that I'm using. What I do usually, please ignore the wind howling on the window. What I usually do is to add either white pigment ink, gold, or any other metallic color that you want, And then I also use darker inks, dye inks, to add more detail on top of the base layer that we created earlier. You can add as much or as little as you want, and this is where you can let your creativity shine. Mixed media, it's a great opportunity for you to use anything and everything you have in your stash. You can actually bring it all together, layer it up. You see that some of the stamps that I use, like those gifts, you won't see them at all at the end because they will be covered by other elements, other stuff. This is also an opportunity to use literally everything that you don't use that much. There is no right or wrong, there is no too much. Anything you want to use will work in the end. You see that we will cut these panels into smaller pieces, and those are the ones that we are going to use on our card. So it will be just a lot of shine and detail and color. For my second panel, I'm gonna do exactly the same thing but with different shades of greens, and I'm introducing some blending brushes. As I said, direct to paper works best, and that's how I started. But I just wanted to show you that you can use your tools, you can use a brayer, you can use a gel plate if you have one, and use what you have. You can literally use this idea with anything in your stash. And I just wanted to show a different way to do it. I do prefer the swiping method because it's easier and quicker. But you can see here, I'm not blending anything. It looks very splotchy, it looks awful. But I just need that first layer of color to start building up on it. That's all. You could actually start with a lighter color of cardstock and build up on it, but I just wanted not to have any other color at first. Here I am stamping this background and I just dabbed a little bit of the corner so I wouldn't have the image be as solid as the first one. This one I am going to stamp on the edges, and sometimes I bring the background stamp to the paper, sometimes I bring the paper to the background. Both of them work very well. I don't have a preference. I think it depends where the area is, where it makes it easier for me. And for this one, I am trying to remove those harsh lines by dabbing my paper towel before, but I didn't even care about that on the first one. And to me, it turned out okay. If you are a mixed media artist, you might be having a heart attack now. There is absolutely no method to this madness, I promise you. Now, because I'm using green for this one, I am using more leaves, and the first one I used more stars because it was more blue. To me, it makes me think more of the sky, but I am using a bunch of random other stuff as well. Now we're moving on to our third stage of mixed media, which is adding everything else that we haven't used yet. Here on the screen, it's a list of a few items that you could use. I am using the sprays now after I use the stamps. As I said, the first one I did it the other way around. This one I thought it would be better because the stamps wouldn't lift that shine. And then I'm adding some extra shine and shimmer to the first one as well. Once in a while, I will bring them closer to the camera so you can see how far we've gone. And then I'm just gonna choose some more details to add either in white pigment ink, metallic pigment ink, and then I'm gonna start adding some paste and just layering as much as I can, as much as I want, as much as I think matches the theme of what I'm doing. So the themes that I chose, as I said, it will be the blue and the sky with the stars, and the second one would be green with foliage. Now, this solar paste, I put some of it down and I just loved the way it looked on the background. And because of that, I'm gonna keep on adding more and more and more. Here is the best place for you to use all the glitter sprays and paste that you have, all of the colors, all of everything that you usually don't use that much, because there is no right or wrong, there are no rules, there is no too much police when it comes to using your craft supplies in mixed media. And then I loved it so much that I'm gonna go back and add way more stars to my first background, which was fortunate because I think those stars really, really contrasted and brought it back to life to me. The lighter ones that I tried to stamp before, that I tried to stamp in white, I think my white pigment ink is very dry. It needs to be re-inked, and I don't have a re-inker for it. It's not really showing. So these ones really showed up beautifully, and I was much happier with the results. Just a side note, I've been trying to include a supply list to my information on the videos. I went back and I did add the supply list to the holiday series ones, except for the very first one because I show everything on the camera. But it might just take me a minute to add the whole list for this one because I'm literally using half of my stash to make these cards. Now, here's a big tip for you. If you don't want to use your expensive cardstock to make a full background, you can use printing paper. I promise you, you can use regular printing paper. When I do this, I use like multiples. I don't emboss usually only one piece. I will cut it down and I'll emboss multiple at a time. Here I'm embossing 3 with this leaf 3D embossing folder. You can see they're all perfect. There's no cracking because it's so thin. I wouldn't use normal liquid glue to glue them down to your card base, but you can add clear glue to your card base and add the embossed panel on top. By embossing multiples, not only you saving cardstock by using printing paper, but you also embossing up to 6 panels at a time, and that will save you a lot of time. Here's a list of different ways that you can make those cards look unique, look all distinct from each other. I start by cutting my panels in half, and that will give me a card size panel. And then each one of these card size panel, I am going to cut them differently. The first one I'm cutting kind of diagonally, and one piece is way bigger than the other. It doesn't matter. You could try to cut it halfway if you prefer. The next ones will be a vertical cut, but the other blue panel, I'll cut them all horizontally. Then from my blue pieces, I will get 2/4 and I'll use a die cut to give them a different shape. Off screen, I did emboss other white panels. I have 3 that I messed up on my previous video. They're regular cardstock that I'm using on some of the cards, but all of the other ones were just printing paper. I just embossed with a different 3D embossing folders. I'm also cutting some mirror cardstock and some satin gold cardstock strips that I'm gonna use to assemble, and it will look like they're matted layers, but they are not. That's also a very frugal way to use your specialty cardstock because we are always trying to save as much as we can, aren't we? Okay, now here you can see that if you change the position of your mixed media pieces, you change the look of the card automatically. You could glue them to the top, to the bottom, to the left, to the right. You could glue them centered. And you could also change orientation, which I haven't done. I used all of my cards in the portrait orientation. If you do move them to landscape, they will look different as well. I will use my smallest glue bottle to add a thin line of glue to where I want to add those gold strips, which is usually to the edge, and I have a clear division between those mixed media panels and my background embossed panel. Now, the background, the 3D embossed printing paper, if you press it hard, if you use your bone folder, you will flatten it. But you can see here on the screen that I am actually putting a bit of pressure and nothing is going missing. There's no detail flattening and going missing. You can use them perfectly the way they are, and they will maintain beautiful dimension. To finish those cards, I just added an image. In my case, it's a die cut, and the sentiment, another die cut. But you could just add a stamped sentiment, which is what I'm going to do with the blue tealish ones. The green ones, I did add a white and gold die cut and a gold sentiment. but then I thought the sentiments were way too big, and I changed my mind on the next ones. I will show you more details as we go along. And these ones I decided to add also a gold frame, very thin frame around them, because I'm not gonna matte them, and I'm just using my gold watercolors. Now I'm gonna emboss these two printing papers as well to use them. One of them has a bit of a recycled color, recycled look, and the other one is plain white, just so you can see that you can use any kind of printing paper. And I'm embossing them with poinsettias. And now I'm just gonna put them together, assemble all of the cards. So you see that I just changed the position, like I said before. I changed the elements, the images, and the sentiments, and they all look like completely different cards. I just want to point out that my bluish ones, I did more color afterwards. I used my darkest shade and I blended a little bit around the borders of my elements. Not all of them, this one I forgot, but I should have done that to all of them because it really deepened the color. It made it a little bit more dramatic, and it really attracts your attention to the center of those pieces. I use a lot of die cut on my cards because that's my jam. But if you're good at doodling or coloring, and if you really have more stamps on your stash, use those instead. I have been saying that all you need to finish the cards is an image and a sentiment, but you could also use only the sentiment and not add an image at all. I also want to suggest that for the bluish tealish panels, you could have used, instead of the images that I chose, snowflakes if you live in a place that is colder, or if you're gonna send those cards to someone who lives in a colder place. But as I said before, I've been trying to avoid snowflakes because I am in Brazil and holidays here in the middle of summer. But it would work beautifully for that. Now for this card, I'm doing something a little bit different. I am using some scraps, some leftover strips that I had, cutting one of their edges a little bit different, and I'm just gluing them to the left. I will glue my panel also offset to the left and trim the excess off, and then I'm just going to decorate them. Each one of them I'm adding an element in white with gold details and a small sentiment for these ones, and that's it. Now my next video, I will be showing you some very elegant and different ways to use vellum for your holiday cards. Please, please, please come and join me. I am passionate about vellum. I love using vellum on my cards, and I will share a few different ideas with you. The first one is always quick and easy, and then I start building up on that. Some of them will look very, very fancy, but they're all very easy to make. I hope you enjoyed these ideas. In one afternoon, you can get dozens of cards made if you follow these tips, and you can save a lot on your supplies, as I showed you throughout. Also, each one of them will look completely unique. They are completely different. There's so much detail, shimmer, shine, sparkle, glitter. There's so much interest on these backgrounds on the mixed media panels, and they all look absolutely stunning at the end. I love how they turn down. I hope you like too. Sadly, the camera doesn't capture all the details very well. Just to recap the ideas, I used white foliage and gold berries for all of my green cards. On the blue ones, I used a bell in a bowl, a star, a village scene, and a poinsettia. Happy crafting. Have a lovely week. Bye.